ganyan kalaki ng nabasa. Lalaki.
With Globe, our steps can lead us to millions of doors opening, millions of paths unfolding, and millions of reasons to keep going. Now's the time to be with a network that gets better every day for you.
Malaki ang epekto sa amin ng pandemic. Bagsak ang negosyo namin pero sinagip kami ng online selling. Kung hindi siguro dahil sa Globe, wala kasi nag-try ako ng iba. Wala very reliable ang network nila.
Because so much of our lives are online. If you get disconnected,
ready for our recitation, kids?
do you even exist? Welcome to the Red Light. Introducing Red Fiber, 100% fiber internet. A life with reliable connection, with flexible plans for different lifestyles. No worries of getting cut off. And dependable customer service. So when it matters most, you're always ready.
Good job, Jacob.
Get ready for the Red Life. Red Fiber. Reliability redefined.
Recording in progress. Sa aming mga nagla-livestream, mahalaga yung maayos na koneksyon. Nakakahiya pag naglalagang signal. Malaki na pinag-iba ngayon. Okay na yung 4G pero mas lalong gumanda yung 5G. Our livestream will not be possible kung hindi malakas ang signal ng globe.
Yung alam ko na 15 to 20 Mbps na speed, nadoble na pala. Partida 4G lang ang gamit ko nito. Ang laking bagay kasi pag yung video calling sa streaming hindi naglalag. Pati yung pag-feed namin sa base, sobrang smooth na din. Ever since I'm using Globe, kaya kitang-kita ko ang improvement na network.
Because so much of our lives are online. If you get disconnected,
Ready for our presentation, kids?
do you even exist? Welcome to the Red Light. Introducing Red Fiber. 100% fiber internet. A life with reliable connection. With flexible plans for different lifestyles. No worries of getting cut off. And dependable customer service. So when it matters most, you're always ready.
Good job, Jacob.
Get ready for the Red Light. Red Fiber. Reliability redefined.
Good morning. And for those joining us from overseas, good afternoon or good evening. Welcome to the National Summit on Transformation, Educational Transformation, an Academe, Alumni, Industry, Government Collaboration. This is the third of our summit webinar, and I'm your host, Nanette Fernandez, Secretary of the College of Education, Alumni Foundation Incorporated, and Chair of the Secretariat of UST Alumni Association. Today, we're going to have, for our webinar, the title is Higher Education in the Industry 4.0. And we're going to answer, the panelists will answer what is to be done by each sector to catalyze the transformation of the Philippine educational landscape towards Education 4.0. So, to begin the day, and of course we need to offer it to the Lord, I'd like to call on Dr. MARILYN CANO, co-chair of the Academics Committee of the Alumni Association, to give us the invocation. Dr. MARILYN?
Good morning, everyone. May I request everyone to put ourselves in the holy presence of God. Together, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Loving God, we feel your divine presence here in this webinar. Be our guide, our inspiration in every step we do to glorify you by our work in the UST, AAIG. Give us the light to lead us to better understand and share with each other our thoughts and actions to enable us to have a fruitful episode today for the common good. Bless all our speakers, that they may become your mouthpiece, dear God, in sharing progressive thoughts and opinions that will inspire our participants to work things out in applying learnings today in their workplaces for the good of all. Bless as well the prime movers of this project and those working behind the scene, that they may always be steadfast in responding to the needs of the day, responding to the needs of this webinar. Bless all our speakers, that they may become your mouthpiece every day also, O Lord. Thank you, dear God, that you have given us a bright day, filled with energy to abide and do everything according to your will. Thank you for the continuous provision you have sent us, the protection you give us, the joy and love you provide every day of our lives. We ask your blessings for others who may not be in the same condition as we are today. Take care as well of them, O Lord. Take care of their needs to make life more comfortable for them, in the name of the most holy Triune God. We all glorify as we together say, Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. Amen. Saint Thomas Aquinas,
Pray for us.
pray for us. Our Lady of the Most Holy Rosary, pray for us. Saint Therese of the Child Jesus, pray for us. Most Holy Spirit, guide and inspire each one of us. Amen.
Amen.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cano, for a most inspiring prayer. Please stand for the national anthem.
Lupang hinirang, buhay ka ng mag-ibig.
webinar this morning. And to get things started, may we call on the chair of the Academics Committee of the UST Alumni Association, Ms. INOCENCIA Ida TIONKO, who is also the Vice President of the UST Alumni Association Incorporated. Ma'am Ida.
Our distinguished speakers, esteemed co-collaborators of the AAIG Summit, honored guests from the alumni, the academe, industry, and the government, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to our third webinar of the National Multisectoral Summit for Educational Transformation and Academe, Alumni, Industry, Government Collaboration. As we continue with our journey in this summit, we see ourselves moving closer to the achievement of the objective we have set at the beginning, that is, to catalyze the transformation of the Philippine educational landscape in bridging the academe and industry gap. In the first webinar entitled Transitioning the Graduates to Industry 4.0 Workplace, we learned that we were inspired how understanding, skills, and technology can help prepare the workforce for Industry 4.0. The need for addressing the long-standing imbalances and learning gaps was emphasized. Prominent keywords were transform, adapt, co-create, collaborate, and reach out. As we journeyed to the second webinar that focused on disruptions, disturbances, and disorders of Industry 4.0, we saw how the present pandemic greatly affected the industry and the academe, and how particular and effective solutions are imperative to be in place with the support of the government to help our students and organizations adapt and become resilient and agile. And now we are here in the third webinar, Higher Education in the Industry 4.0 Era. And our speakers are challenged to help us answer the question, what is to be done by its sector to catalyze the transformation of the Philippine educational landscape towards Education 4.0. The third industrial revolution has brought educators to an environment where access to information is immediate and free, shifting the focus toward active learning pedagogies that place a premium on collaboration with diverse teams in a project-based and peer learning environment. Education experts agree that any educational plan for Industry 4.0 must be built upon the results of the third industrial revolution, with its emerging development of hybrid, online, and in-person instruction, and efficient and seamless integration of global video conferencing, and a wide array of asynchronous educational resources. Blended instruction and optimization of flipped and online courses will make more efficient learning environments. Traditional undergraduate education through information transfer is no longer a viable form of education to ensure employment and a career. In this context, we must ask, how do we prepare employable and responsible citizens in our tertiary education systems? Michael Peters, in his paper on technological unemployment, Educating for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, published in the Journal of Self-Governance and Management Economics, has argued that education by itself will be insufficient to address problems of technological unemployment. Education through traditional institutions of higher education is still important, but their collaboration with industry and governments need to be much more intense. At this point, I am proud to share that in relation to graduates' employability, UST ranked second among Philippine universities in this area, according to a survey by London's Waccarelli Simons, or QS, just released on September 23. These graduate employability rankings evaluate universities according to 5 metrics, namely partnerships with employers, graduate employment rate, employer-student connections, alumni outcomes, and employer reputation. Indeed, this is proof of the university's performance and commitment in preparing employable and responsible citizens that is required of Education 4.0 for Industry 4.0. Education through traditional institutions of higher education is still important, but their collaboration with industry and government needs to be much more intense. Higher education must change to prepare their workforce in the fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution has changed the landscape of educational innovation. The exact impacts of such technologies on society and the planet is still unknown, but the fact that they will bring profound and rapid change seems all but certain. The need for higher education to respond is urgent. Education 4.0 focuses on educational development and skill that has made future learning more customized, hyper, intelligent, portable, worldwide, and virtual. In the future, there will be a lot of changes in ways of teaching and learning, but the logic of education systems should be such that it is a system that conforms to the learner rather than the learner to the system. This is the essence of personalization. May I invite everyone, therefore, to continue to journey with us in this webinar as we listen to our speakers present the challenges ahead, what needs to be done in order to ensure effective and immediate transformation as we venture to bridge the industry and academic gap. Stay with us and let us continue to enjoy learning. Thank you and a pleasant morning to all.
Thank you, Ma'am Ida. That is Ma'am Ida TIONKO setting the tone for our webinar this morning. Of course, as she said, this is already the third of a series of webinars in this summit. And this would not have been possible if not for our sponsors. So we'd like to thank again Globe Telecom, CBRC Vice, Radius Telecom, and Metro Rail Transit Corporation for partnering with us so that we can give this to you and we can all learn from this and help in the national development of our educational system in the Philippines. Okay, so now you can relax, sit back, and if you missed the first and second webinars, you can actually still watch them at our Facebook pages of our partners. It's actually all in the chat box. And we also now have a UST AAI Fashion Alumni Community YouTube channel where you can also find these webinars. So if you missed the last one, and some of the panelists were saying earlier that this was one of the best, this is the third, no, it's always getting better. So let's watch the recap of the last seminar. There's a video for it, so let's watch that.
I'm Dr. Manny Baton. I'll be your host and moderator in this webinar. Webinar 2 is a sequel in the story of the whole summit. And we are responding to a theme. What are the challenges that Industry 4.0 brings to higher education?
Heavenly Father, open our minds to see and understand in the way you would want us to the disruptions, disturbances, and disorders in the industry that impacts our educational system.
And as we shift to Industry 4.0, in the midst of the pandemic, the challenges and issues have become more pronounced doubly difficult to address, we need to think to calibrate our strategies to address these challenges. What is important at the moment is to strike a balance between the strategies and solutions we offer to address the problems and issues posed by the pandemic with its possible impact and outcomes.
Let me focus on the COVID-19 pandemic. We will agree that it has indeed changed the way we do things, such as in education, work, and entertainment. It has forced to adapt us to the fourth industrial revolution. We see that COVID-19 demonstrated the importance of digital readiness among us, especially our learners and workers. I would like to take this opportunity to advocate the Philippine Qualifications Framework. It is a quality-assured national system for the development, recognition, and award of qualification based on standards of knowledge, skills, and values acquired in different ways and methods by learners and workers in the country. Lumabas talaga na issue and challenge is how we will be able to popularize the Philippine Qualifications Framework. How will one and wana really appreciate this particular framework? And what is in it for government, academic, industry if we have a Philippine Qualifications Framework?
Ang edukasyon, agham, teknolohiya, sining, kultura, pati ang palakasan at pareho po ang DepEd at CHED, ang higher education institution, may kinalaman po rito ay dapat pong bigyan ng prioridad ng Estado to foster patriotism, nationalism, accelerate social progress, and promote total human liberation and development. At nais ko lang pong diinan kung bakit po mahalaga itong forum na ito. At I'm sure CHED and TESDA also has that framework in actively engaging the family, our community, and other stakeholders in making sure that when we do our mandate to make sure that there's lifelong learning, kailangan maunawaan po ng buong komunidad, ng buong bansa, na ito po hindi lamang aming mandato, trabaho sa DepEd at pati na rin sa CHED at TESDA, that we have to engage partners and make them realize that this is not the responsibility alone of DepEd, CHED, and TESDA, but a collective responsibility.
Higher education needs to move beyond existing approaches. It needs to restructure and utilize new methods of teaching and learning. This process of restructuring higher education must start with restructuring basic education. Learners need a strong foundation in literacy and numeracy. It is imperative that we restructure our education system immediately. We cannot stand still. We must redouble our efforts to shorten the gap or even overtake the other countries.
The primary barriers to Industry 4.0 are lack of financial capability and unfamiliarity. Due to the changing landscape, there is a need to upskill and reskill, topics that we have discussed with TESDA and DepEd. Upskill and reskill our young students, given that the Philippines has a relatively young population with a median age of 25 years old. We need to develop a highly educated workforce for the future. This is the often cited factor why many of the foreign investors now located in the country are here. The pandemic situation has resulted in the accelerated adoption of digital tools and automation of tasks in all levels of our lives. So let me just emphasize that investments in new technologies, digitalization, and innovation are investments on resilience, sustainability, competitiveness, and long-term business growth, which are all necessary as we enter our economic recovery. Together, let us help create a strong manufacturing industry And by manufacturing, I also include industry and services that will build back better a more competitive and innovative Philippines.
Let's keep people at the center of all our fourth industrial revolution transformation plans, and that would be applicable to all the academe, the industry, as well as with the government.
I would like to reiterate my call to look into the advocacy ng PQF, the Philippine Qualifications Framework, and also look into pursuing and offering TVET qualifications in the institution.
Alam niyo mga anak, may katapusan din lahat ito, ang pandemyang ito mga anak ay matapos. Maging matibay kayo mga anak, mag-aral mabuti, mahalin ang mga magulang at pamilya, at maging responsableng Filipino.
I urge that our government make sure that we have connectivity for all and from all parts of the Philippines. To the students, you should get digital literacy and look into life skills that are also quite needed. And as I said, the most important, that you really form your character.
Okay, so I think that really makes us so eager to get this day started. But to maximize the experience, may we request that you always keep your microphones on mute so that it does not distract the speakers. And also, please actively engage. No? We have outstanding speakers this morning. And if you have any question, yung hindi kayo makakatulog pag hindi nyo itinanong, please write on the chat box your question and for whom you intend the question to be. And of course, we have a very efficient secretariat that will be monitoring your questions. So please engage and be ready for whatever, because this is really a challenge. It's the webinar is just the start, and it really goes beyond this webinar, and once we go back to our work situations. All right, so there will also be certificates given out for those who've been asking. It's a standalone seminar, so you get a certificate for it, but kaliwaan po tayo, you need to first of all fill out the evaluation form, which will be posted on the chat box. So just be aware that there will be an evaluation form that you have to fill out at the end of the seminar. There's a photo opportunity for the panelists and speakers. During that time, I think that's the best time for you to answer the questionnaire, and then you send it back to us, and that will assure you that you will get your certificate. Okay, so let's begin. So today, again, we have higher education in the Industry 4.0 era. What is to be done by each sector to catalyze the transformation of the Philippine educational landscape towards Education 4.0? And our first speaker is a superwoman in every sense of the word. All right, so I'd like to introduce Miss Maria Yolanda Crisanto, who is also an alumna of our ArtLefs at the University of Santo Tomas. She is the Senior Vice President, Corporate Communications of Globe Telecom. Yoli is Chief Sustainability Officer of Globe Telecom, a leading mobile and digital company in the Philippines. She earned her Master's in Business Administration degree from the Ateneo Graduate School of Business and is currently a member of the Asia Pacific Association of Communications Directors and has served as president of the Public Relations Society of the Philippines. She's a multi-awarded professional, both local and international, in her fields of expertise, specifically communications, sustainability practice, and corporate social responsibility. I called her a superwoman, and this is because one of her international awards include the 2018 Asia's Top Sustainability Superwomen given in Singapore. She also received the 101 Most Impactful CSR Leaders Award, a global listing for 2019 in Mumbai, and she is the first Filipino to be recognized with a Communications for Future, or C4F, Davos Award in Geneva. For 3 straight years, she was recognized by PR Week as among the 500 most influential people in the global PR industry from 2015 to 2017. Welcome, our Superwoman alumna, a proud Tomasino, Miss Yoli Crisanto. Ma'am Yoli, please.
Thank you, Professor Nanette Fernandez. That was a great introduction. Globe morning, that's how we greet everyone at Globe. And thank you to the faculty and alumni of UST for inviting Globe to be here today. First, I'd like to congratulate all of you for launching your National Multisectoral Summit for Educational Transformation. Before I dive into the topic of how the telecom sector helps transform the Philippine education landscape, please allow me to reintroduce to you our company, Globe. Most of you know us to be a telecom service provider, but not many people know that today we are more than just a telco. We are a digital solutions platform with a market value of 363 billion, serving 85 million customers nationwide, and over 8,000 employees at Globe alone and 14,000 employees across the group. The logos you see here represent the companies and brands under the Globe Group, and the most popular of which are, of course, GCash, which is the #1 payment app in the country, Consulta MD, the telemedicine app that democratized primary healthcare in the Philippines. Imagine having to pay only 60 pesos for a doctor's consultation instead of the usual 1,000 to 2,000 pesos. Health Now is another health app, which is a joint venture with Ayala Corporation Health. We also have our own entertainment studio, Globe Studios, and events company, Globe Live. Finally, we have a lifestyle company called 917 Lifestyle, where you see all the t-shirts and merchandise you see inside the Globe store. Sustainability at Globe is one of our practices at this point in time. We look at ourselves as a leader in this practice, and this comes from our mission and having a purpose, which is in everything we do, we treat people right to create a globe of good. As a business, we act responsibly, being a signatory to the UN Global Compact. We have also committed to contribute to 10 out of the 17 SDGs, while focusing on 4 areas, which is to create a digital nation, provide societal impact, caring for people, and caring for environment. The things that we do at the education sector contributes to the creation of a digital nation. And this morning, this is what I would like to be able to discuss with you. It is widely known that the education sector is one of the most severely impacted by the pandemic. Student enrollment went down, those previously studying in private schools moved to public schools, and about 860 private schools had to close down. The Department of Education had to implement a modular mode of learning where they transitioned from face-to-face learning to online, print, radio, and TV-based learning. Both teachers and students needed to adjust to these changes, and such big changes also caused a lot of anxiety to teachers, students, and also the parents who suddenly found themselves involved in homeschooling. As a sector response, we supported the Department of Education in 3 key areas. First is to address the limited access to the internet. At Globe, the sudden increase in demand for data required us to double down on our network builds to improve internet access. This year alone, we've invested about 76 billion in CapEx to increase our network footprint and upgrade our services. We also worked with DepEd in zero-rating their sources of education content and content platforms to make it easy for teachers and students to get the content that they need, the official content coming from the Department of Education. Second, we supported teachers with professional training to boost their confidence in delivering remote learning. And third, we helped address the anxiety amongst teachers, students, and parents brought by the pandemic by providing mental wellness programs. For students, there is also a need to equip them with improved functional literacy. You may have come across this study, the latest international assessment of skills and knowledge of our 15-year-old students. The Philippines ranked last in reading and second to the last in math and science. We ranked lower than Indonesia and China. Another important point is that our government expenditures and investments for student education are the lowest among all other countries. So GLOBE is helping students gain functional literacy by empowering communities to make early language literacy content accessible and available through our education platforms. As part of our commitment to the education sector, we recently launched Go Learn. Go Learn is a unified initiative that brings together products, programs, and services that will empower the whole learning ecosystem. It aims to deliver affordable connectivity for all, highly accessible platforms aligned with the current learning setup, and safer learning environments to protect our educators and learners from online risks. Go Learn has a wide array of products and services designed exclusively for learners that is very affordable to them. For us in Globe, there is no reason for learning to stop even during a pandemic. To ensure that learners have access to the most relevant content through online and blended learning, we offered free access to education platforms, which means that our customers will not incur any data charges when accessing these sites. Under DepEd, free access was given to DepEd Commons and its entire learning management system. For CHED, it's Philippine Connect, and for eTESDA, which is the online learning platform of TESDA. To supplement this, we also launched a library of online materials with over 800 books and 100 videos under Globe eLibrary. This is accessible via the internet, and it also comes in a mobile app for both Android and iOS. Globe's eLibrary can be accessed also free of charge. Now, we go to the more fundamental changes and initiatives that Globe has done in the past and present during the pandemic. Even prior to this pandemic, Globe has initiated many programs to address the needs of the education sector. One good example is the Global Filipino Schools program, which aims to transform select public schools into digitally equipped centers of excellence for 21st century learning. Aside from training the teachers on ICT and project-based learning, we provided the schools with ICT mobile cart, which contains laptops and tablets, a projector and screen, plus free internet access. And based on our assessment report, the GFS model helped students research better, connect for emergency purposes. Class reports are now prepared using ICT. Lessons are presented better with the projector. Lessons are also retained better through audiovisual materials using ICT equipment. In terms of reach, we have established at least one global Filipino school at every region in the country. We have a total of 218 public schools that are connected with ICT equipment, teachers training, and infrastructure support. 340,000 students are now equipped with digital skills. At the onset of the pandemic, we also re-engaged our global Filipino teachers. with refresher courses and supported their professional development in partnership with the DepEd. We provided digital skills training to other teachers to help them pivot from face-to-face teaching to online blended learning. To help address anxiety and mental health issues, we provided mental wellness webinars in partnership with the Philippine Mental Health Association. The Professional Development Series are accredited programs under the DepEd National Educators Academy of the Philippines. And this includes digital learning, where teachers learn to maximize technology available in delivering online learning, including the use of social media, DepEd Commons, teaching through Facebook Messenger, and possible obstacles we need to be aware of, as well as instructional strategies and practices. Early language literacy, where we equip teachers with the necessary tools that they can use without the need for doing face-to-face teaching. And mental wellness webinar to address overall well-being. Among the topics discussed here are examining your inner struggles, enriching your relationship with others, dealing with grief and loss, and exploring one's spirituality. An upcoming webinar is also on the wing to support parents in distance learning. In this webinar, we hope to tackle social and emotional learning, self-awareness, and self-management. Now, one of the key catalysts to 21st century readiness is STEM. It is an important branch of learning that will help learners with critical thinking and being adept at using technology. With this, we have piloted a few programs to enhance and nurture the students' love for STEM. In primary and secondary education, we partnered with Mano Amiga to establish the Globe Maker Lab, an after-school program that provides exercises for better appreciation of STEM. This includes engineering, a basic understanding of electricity and circuitry, robotics, machine learning, using Arduino and Raspberry Pi, and coding for kids, using basic HTML language for web design. For tertiary students, we partnered with the De La Salle University to establish an IT Academy where we will design new courses and modules with special focus on ICT education, including artificial intelligence. To date, we have trained 49 professors from 10 De La Salle colleges and senior high schools for Technopreneurship 101. Part of the program is a topic on 5G use and how 5G use cases and mobile technology can play a vital role in developing new businesses. Another key support for the education sector is through our award-winning digital Thumbprint program. The objective of this program is to educate the youth and parents on digital citizenship and the responsible use of technology. DTP was developed in partnership with Singtel, one of the shareholders of Globe, and Optus, UNICEF, and Safer Kids PH. And we are proud to say that the digital Thumbprint program has been adopted by the Department of Education as part of its K-12 curriculum. In terms of reach, we have reached 1.9 million students and going, where we provided access to the programs across all the 17 regions. 115,000 teachers nationwide have gone through the modules, and at least 4,000 schools have implemented the program. In terms of our impact, we saw an increase from 74% to 95% awareness on how personal data is used in cyberspace and is now able to discern what's truly important. We saw a 19% decline in students engaging in group chats or messages with strangers online, and a 15% increase in participants who have set their profile settings in Facebook to private. This program has 5 modules. including the first is Digital Insight, which is designed to teach data privacy and cybersecurity to young students, with topics including password security, understanding terms of service, which no one ever reads online, and a code of conduct when inside a cyber cafe. Digital Impact is designed to prevent cyberbullying among kids. And then Digital Discernment is designed to prevent the spread of fake news. So it teaches students to differentiate among facts, opinions, and false information. Digital Ambition is designed to teach students how to be a good catalyst or a catalyst for good using technology. And then finally, we also have a parents module, which is designed to raise awareness on parent responsibility within today's digital world. Some of the things that are being taught here include the risks to youth or the risks to children when going online, and how to keep accounts secure, and how to manage the internet usage of our children. Here are our key learnings with all of the programs and interventions that we have done through the education sector. For workforce readiness, we believe that STEM education is key in developing 21st century learnings. So amongst Academe and the rest of the stakeholders in the sector, we are asking the stakeholders to push our students more into STEM education, because we believe that this is the future, right? We need to be able to produce more CIOs and more CTIOs in the country. In the same vein that India has done very successfully by delving its population into IT and technology, the Philippines has the talent and the resource to get into IT and technology. If only at the younger years, we are able to make STEM attractive to our students. So it may need perhaps a different learning environment, perhaps a different modality or teaching skills, but that is the challenge that we raise to the sector. Another thing that we learn is that for distance learning, access to learning content is important. Like I said, while internet connectivity in the country is still growing in the sense that our infrastructure has to be made bigger and more accessible. It has to match the number of Filipinos in terms of our population that want to go into the internet. But as we do that, we also have to get into more learning content so that when students go to the internet, they do not have to do just Facebook. So that is the digital literacy that we need to imbibe in our students. Being a digital savvy person does not entail you being just on Facebook, but more than that, to use the power of the internet for learning. For online safety, we've noted that the responsible use of technology is core to digital citizenship. You know, even, I guess, as ordinary consumers, when you're new to something like perhaps e-payment like GCash, you get into so many things like you are a victim of fraud, you're a victim of hackers, and so on and so forth, right? So it is important for each and every person to be responsible in terms of protecting their identity, protecting their personal information when they go into the internet, because no one is going to do that for you except yourself. right? For overall mental wellness, we have to ensure that psychosocial support includes self-care, wellness, and resiliency for teachers, including the non-teaching personnel and parents are available. One of the things that we've learned during this pandemic is the rise of mental health issues. And that has to be addressed, right? A lot of people are getting anxious. A lot of people are having a lot of problems dealing with cabin fever maybe, or having to stay inside the homes without seeing their friends. Children are not able to see their friends and co-students, right? So this is something that we need to be aware of, and there has to be psychosocial support, both from the academe level and also from the other stakeholders in the sector. And finally, for stakeholder engagement, we have to practice multi-stakeholder collaboration to enable the digital readiness of our learners. This is what we have learned in practicing sustainability, right? It's so huge. The problems that we have are so big that we cannot do it alone. And so what we need to do is to partner and collaborate with other institutions, even corporates, that have the knowledge and that have the resources to help. Right? And so I am very, very much thankful to the Department of Education for being very open to collaboration with corporate institutions like Globe. And with this partnership, we will be able to address some, if not all, of the problems that are facing us in the sector. This ends my presentation. Thank you very much and good morning.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Yoli. I'm sure there are many, many questions that you'd like to ask, because really, you are right when you said that this is the first time that I learned that Globe is more than just a telecom company. And Go Learn is certainly going to change our educational landscape. So please stay and be ready for the open forum. Thank you very much, Ma'am Yoli. All right. So moving on to our next speaker, Dr. Leo ABERION is currently the Managing Director of StudyPlex Learning and Development Training Center, which is based in Cebu City, Philippines. After he finished his college degree, he joined the corporate world, and a decade after, he was invited to join the Academe. He then pursued his graduate studies to expand his knowledge and skills, specifically in research, linguistics, pedagogy, ethics, leadership and management, and in honing the youth to become responsible citizens in society. He has been an educator for almost 2 decades now, and his advocacy centers on the teaching and non-teaching personnel, especially during the pandemic, because they are the ones who are greatly affected. He has been in management positions in several private, higher, and basic education institutions, and is engaging in conducting seminars, workshops, and training in research and professional development, among others. And today, his topic is most interesting because it will deal with Employees Compensation Program, A Comfort in the Storm. Please welcome Dr. Leo ABERION.
Thank you so much, Professor Nanette. Am I audible?
Sir, can you speak a little louder? I don't know if it's just me.
Am I audible now? Can you hear me?
A little more, please. Could you go closer to the microphone?
How about this one?
Okay, sir. Better.
Okay. So maybe the microphone is far. Okay, once again, good morning, everyone. I would like to take this opportunity to express my heartfelt gratitude to the UST Alumni Association and, of course, Dean Henry Pinedero, my friend and colleague also in our organization. So, actually, I do not believe in an accident, right? I was not an education graduate, but I after joining the corporate world, I really, one of the best experiences that I had is in the education sector. So UST is also, UST alumni, we have been there for our benchmarking because I'm also the officers of the USJR Alumni Association, and I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude for the warm accommodation. So moving on to my topic this morning is about employees compensation program, a comfort in the storm. So the most affected sector during the COVID-19 pandemic, especially during the lockdown, this was the private sector. It's not the big schools, especially the small and medium-sized private schools all over the country. So based on the data gathered last year, almost 900 to 1,000 small, medium-sized schools all over the Philippines closed shop and now still going. So it's very unfortunate for us, even my institution, because we were struggling for 4 months from April to July before the opening of classes. So we tried our best what to do, especially from the financial assistance to our teachers, considering that they are just earning a little. Unlike in the government institution wherein they are paid regularly even during the pandemic. So I would like to focus on my presentation on the pandemic, the effects of COVID-19, the pandemic and the education sector. And second is on the pandemic and the private sector, especially the small and medium-sized schools all over the Philippines. During the early months of the lockdown, the Federation of Association of Private Schools Administrators, or FAPSA, was gathering data in relation to the schools who are affected with the COVID-19 pandemic. So nobody volunteered in the regions of Visayas and Mindanao. And even if I am just an ordinary school administrator in a small school in Cebu, I volunteered to take the opportunity to help, especially to our affected school administrators, teaching and non-teaching personnel. So I volunteered to Sir Eli, the president of FAPSA, that I am interested to represent Region 7 or the Central Visayas. But I think it's not, unfortunately, it's a blessing that I fully represented the whole Visayas, Region 6, 7, and 8, including most of the regions in Mindanao. So especially that majority of the education sector were not given enough assistance during Camp 1. So we tried our best to make a survey in order for us to gather information from schools who are greatly affected during the pandemic. So we gathered data and then we gained more than 4,000 schools all over the country. And it's over 100,000 affected teaching and non-teaching personnel. Because of that, we wrote a letter to Secretary Briones regarding our concern on how we could help our teaching and non-teaching personnel, especially that we do not know when would this pandemic end. So we sent a position paper to the lower house and also to the Senate, but we were not given the chance to air out our concern, especially that we are just representing small schools. We don't have much voice to the Congress. But what we did, we didn't surrender. So we wrote another letter addressed, I am not campaigning, but this is just based on experience that we had. We wrote a letter to Senator Bongo through the office of the president, and he immediately responded and endorsed us to the Department of Labor and Employment. With that instance, with that particular opportunity, we were given the chance to immediately connect or partner with the central office of the Department of Labor and Employment. Allow me to express our gratitude to the Secretary of the Department of Labor and Employment and all the undersecretaries and assistant secretaries, and of course the staff and the regional directors all over the country. I, as an ordinary teacher, administrator, was able to make a difference and also was able to meet teachers, administrators all over the country for I made sleepless nights just to get their emails, especially in assisting them just to get the financial assistance. But of course, the budget was limited. It was only 300 million, good for 60,000. And more or less, based on the data that we had, the teaching and non-teaching personnel all over the country for the private schools is of almost 300,000 or beyond 260,000. So what we did was we just catered those who were given the opportunity or the chance to be successful in the online application. And then later on, there was another opportunity for them because there was an extra budget from another region. And then with those who were not given or the assistance during the release of the first tranche of the Camp 2, they were given an opportunity. And after that, we did not stop. We were able to help the private schools, especially that I was given an opportunity also to take partnership through my friend in Region 6. I will allow me to take this opportunity, the in charge of the Public Information Officer, Sir Stephen Barredo, from Region 6 or in Western Visayas in Iloilo. We were able to conduct series of webinar in terms of employees compensation program. So that's why my title was A Comfort in the Storm, because it was only this June that we were able to get the data or information about the benefits that we get from the Employees Compensation Commission. So what is the emotion or the feelings from the school administrators, the teaching and non-teaching personnel who were affected, and we don't have any knowledge about the services that the Employees Compensation has given to both the public and the private sector. So for the information of everybody, the Employees Compensation Commission is an attached agency of the Department of Labor and Employment, and its administering agency is the Social Security System. We do not know, many of us, I do not know if everyone or most of us, we do not know that our monthly contribution of 10 pesos or 30 pesos, we can get assistance or still a benefit outside from the Social Security System. So it's the employer who paid the monthly premium of 10 pesos or 30 pesos depending on the bracket of the monthly compensation. So with this, especially the COVID-19 pandemic, the Employees Compensation Program has disseminated several schools. So that's why we already conducted for 15 batches or more than 3,000 administrators, teaching and non-teaching personnel, especially the coverage of the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. So every now and then we are still continuing because we are given the opportunity to have regular schedules in partnership with the ECC, because the one who prepared the program is the central office through our humble director Stella Banawis. And the Employees Compensation Program helped a lot, especially from those affected teaching and non-teaching personnel, because before they did not know that COVID-19 is covered with the Employees Compensation Financial Assistance. So they make it the process simple. Like for example, if there is if you're affected or if you got infected with COVID-19 pandemic, you're just required to submit the SSS notification approval, sickness notification approval, the certificate of employment, and of course your medical certificate. Then we assisted as much as we can through our partnership from different regions. By the way, during the webinar series, is not only dominated by Region 6, but they also tap the different regions over the country in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. So during our webinar, we really experienced the hardships of the education sector, especially the administrators' survival in keeping strong, especially that we are still here continuing our educational journey. So what is the nature or the situation of the private schools today? Of course, we are struggling. I think this is very evident with the experiences that we have. We are still surviving. And of course, with the help of God Almighty, we keep going. We don't surrender. And of course, we need, in order to survive, to sustain our existence, because the main purpose of education is nation building. We are partner of the government in nation building, and we hope that the government will continue to assist us, especially in facilitating our students to continue their studies amidst the pandemic. And also, we need cooperation between parents, students, and other stakeholders in the academy. What is the best thing that we should do is we are partners with the private and the public sector. So we go hand in hand, especially in journeying our children as to give quality education so that we can rise above being in the Philippines. Okay, so I think that's it. That's all for my talk this morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And if there are administrators or any other teaching and non-teaching personnel who wish to ask or inquire about the financial assistance regarding the Employees Compensation Commission. By the way, for the Employees Compensation Commission, it's only work-related injuries, sickness, and death. There are only 3 instances. The rest, in terms of problems between compensations and any other labor issues, it is to be addressed to the Department of Labor and Employment. So if you have questions, clarifications regarding whether because we have the so-called prescriptive period. In terms of prescriptive period, it's 3 years. But even if if you have relatives or friends who have been, who passed away, for example, for 20 years, but you were able to report to the Social Security System or to the GSIS, the prescriptive period will be erased. So there's no more deadline when you have reported that 20 or 30 years ago. So the prescriptive period only applies for those who were not able to report the incident to the Social Security System for the private sector and to the GSIS for the public sector. So once again, if you have concerns, I have contacts from the different regions all over the country. This is Leo ABERION assisting the private sector through the Employees Compensation Commission. Thank you so much and good morning.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. ABERION, for that. Of course, it's a not even bread and butter, but just a bread issue. So I'm sure there will be questions later for the open forum, so please stay. Thank you. All right, so the next speaker, I'm rather proud of this next, to claim some some affinity with this next speaker, who is a graduate of the UST High School and was my student when I was a beginning teacher. So Leonardo or Leo RIINGEN currently holds several executive positions in companies he either owns or partially owns. Given his entrepreneurial and professional business skills, he became chairman, CEO, and director of several companies in the fields of IT, education, marketing, technology, retail, infrastructure, and food. He is chairman and president of Computer Assisted Learning Corporation, or CAL, an education service provider, and CEO of Informatics Philippines, a network of 9 computer colleges that he built 22 years ago when he was 29 years old. He founded Explore Philippines Incorporated, an IT solutions provider with interest in education solutions, waste management, and automation. Leo has a degree in economics from the University of the Philippines and a master's in business administration from the University of Wales, United Kingdom. He was awarded by his alma mater, University of Santo Tomas, where he graduated from high school, the Outstanding Thomasian Alumni Award, or TOTAL, in Science and Technology in 2007. It's the highest award conferred by UST to an alumnus who has excelled in his field while contributing to the upliftment of society. In 2011, Leo was given the CEO Excel Award for 2011 by the International Association of Business Communicators, an annual recognition of executive officers, presidents, or top-level executives of companies and organizations. Recently, Leo conceptualized civic-oriented nation-building programs that transform the manpower of the future by building IT labs for public elementary and high schools currently being undertaken with local government units and the DepEd. He was instrumental in helping Taguig DepEd in implementing its successful cyber education program. Lately, he introduced a technology-driven learning management system to serve more than 150,000 students in the public schools, colleges, and companies to address the constraints made by the pandemic to the training and education sector. So please welcome Leo RIINGEN.
Hi. Good morning to everyone. I just want to check whether my mic is working.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ma'am Nanette. And of course, my favorite teacher is also here, Ma'am Evelyn Songko. You know, of course, at the time, just to reveal something. No? Actually, crush ko kayong dalawa when I was in high school. But not necessarily ako yung teacher's pet. But anyway, thank you to all the audience right now. I think it's a whole morning, and I know it's kind of difficult to be in Zoom for a long time. But please indulge me. I hope I can share with you my insights on education. Actually, I prepared just a few slides. I was given 15 minutes, so I hope I can compress it. I think Ma'am Yoli and my tokayo, Dr. Leo, were able to provide you with their insights. I think Ma'am Yoli talked about technologies in Globe, which I'm going to touch on probably briefly here. And of course, one of the most important part of the equation would be the people side. No? And today I'm going to share with you my experience as an educator. Actually, I'm basically an entrepreneur, no? And natisod lang ako sa education when informatics Singapore wanted a partner here in the Philippines. That was way back in 1994 when IT literacy was just around 7%. So, I was convinced that the way to go is really to IT, and I'd like to help also the Philippines achieve a higher literacy rate. And I'm happy to say that I think together with all the technology companies and of course the Pinoy's propensity to do social media, our IT literacy rate in the Philippines has gone double digit now, probably even reaching more than 70%. So with that, let me share with you my screen. Okay. Share. Oops. Just give me a minute. Apparently there must be okay. Is my screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'll talk about education, the new normal. Well, as what Ma'am Nanette said, I was a graduate of the UST High. And at this point, I'd like to thank Ma'am Nanette. No, she was my English teacher. I hope I do justice to your teaching, Ma'am Nanette. Well, this is actually the dreaded day last year. No? Because when we got to know that the government locked down the country, that was March 16, no? It would have a big impact on education, and specifically on not only on our food business, because we also own a couple of restaurants, but basically our education business, in this case informatics. And in April, on April 22 of 2020, we saw this cover, no, of Philippine Star. It says that instead of around June, it would be August for schools, and there would be no face-to-face. So that was kind of difficult for us because we don't know whether this COVID pandemic would extend. And there were three options, no, that we were deciding. First is just to wait it out. No, we were hoping at the time that I think everyone hoped that the lockdown would just be for a month or 2 months. The second option is to close, because I've seen a lot of schools deciding to close because there were no enrollment. And the third one is really which is a bit difficult, is to act and adapt. No? So the great dilemma for everyone is, do we prioritize health or do we, prioritize education? I think this is the dilemma also of parents and also the government. No? And, true enough, no, until now, no, and if you notice, until this year, a lot of thinking are going into education, whether to open or not open face-to-face. So that's the great dilemma. Now I'm going to share with you my experience as an educator, hoping that I can share with you some of the insights that they went. So obviously we took the third option, which is to act and adapt. We have 9 colleges, and all these 9 colleges are empty, and they're all over the country. We're paying rent, we're paying lecturers. So the cost, of course, would be very staggering with zero revenues, considering that there's a big question mark on whether students would enroll in an online platform. But nonetheless, I always believe in technology, and I think it's about time, during the time, of course, last year, education is not actually online. I think people actually hated online learning. It's only last year that parents were forced actually to adapt to online mode. Otherwise, the kids won't be able to learn. So I found it as an opportunity actually to revolutionize education. And the only way to do that is actually to help the country by coming up with solutions. No? And in this case, it's really EdTech. Now, I think a decade ago, we were revolutionized with e-banking. I remember before there was a struggle whether to bank face-to-face, meaning meet the teller, or go ATM. And later on, mobile banking. And when I looked at it, that's after the natural trend. Technology is here, and industries would be adopting technology. Same thing with commerce. We now have e-commerce, and before nobody was ever thought of doing groceries online, but the pandemic forced them actually to order online and even get food deliveries online. So maybe education can now catch up. In fact, I was kidding that kung sino pa yung may E, like e-education, yung pa hindi electronic. So now is the right time actually to capitalize on and look at this pandemic as an opportunity, to revolutionize and to change and put innovation into education. So EdTech is actually the process of integrating technology. So it's basically not replacing teachers, which I think a lot of us fear as educators, no? But it's really to build better experiences in teaching and learning, and hoping that the outcomes will be much better. There are a lot of EdTech available. And if you notice, I think a lot of schools, including UST, adopted already these technologies. I'm going to, just to share with you our experience with some of this EdTech. I'm gonna talk about, a few bits about e-learning, LMS, VAL, learning analytics, significant social media. I won't touch on the right side now, which would require another session. Now, I also want to note about, Ma'am Yoli talked about STEM a while ago. Actually, one of the technologies that are available right now is the incorporation of art into STEM. And it's now called STEAM. And the reason for this is really putting creativity into science, technology, and even engineering. Let me talk about e-learning. Obviously, e-learning is not actually online learning, because a lot of people say, but e-learning, online learning, it's basically education or content being delivered electronically. If, for example, you were given a USB with some materials in it, given to you, you plug it on, it's called e-learning na rin, no? But of course, in the broad sense of e-learning, this would pertain to online activities, no? And if you would notice, e-learning is going towards interactive learning. Hindi lang yung nagbabasa ka, hindi lang yung nanonood ka, no? But there are a lot of e-learning technologies that would allow the student to participate electronically. And a good example of that would be simulators. I think we hear about simulators in, if you want to learn how to fly, and, of course, you're going to fly a plane, you would crash it. So there are flight simulators. And amazingly, even driving. In fact, a lot of kids right now learn driving through games. So it's actually e-learning. Now, the nice thing about e-learning is that you actually learn quickly and easily. And the beauty of it, because of connectivity, because of internet, you learn anywhere, anytime, and as they say, anyhow. So a lot of stuff were already incorporated into e-learning, including podcasts, videos, and these are actually in multi-modes already. And one of the things I'd like to share with you would be two modes that have been I think being used right now. Before, natutuwa ako because parents are now talking about synchronous and asynchronous learning. And, it's basically, synchronous would be still, teacher, student talking to each other. And you have technologies to do that, Zoom, MS Teams, and Google Meet. Unfortunately, I've observed that a lot of schools said, we're doing e-learning. And when I looked at how they do it, it's basically synchronous. They ask students to log on, listen to the teacher, practically replacing the classroom with a Zoom meeting or an MS Teams. This is just one part of e-learning. I think the reason why parents are having this bad image of online learning is because e-learning was not executed properly. The other side of the other mode of e-learning is actually the asynchronous mode, which is recorded learning, and these are learning content that were actually developed by educators and delivered online without the need for face-to-face. Now, well, I'll skip this and probably can just read the slides. I think at this point, everyone in the audience would say e-learning is good. Yes, in the strictest sense of the word, e-learning is very engaging, it's interactive, it's cost efficient, by the way, because it's easier actually to deploy learning to 100,000 students. It's flexible, and also the capacity. By the way, the nice thing about e-learning is that even if your student is an OFW or student would be in other islands of the archipelago, you can still deliver the same learning, the same modality, even if the teacher is actually not in the same location as the student. The last one is scalability and accessibility. So scalability meaning you can have several schools all over without actually building an infrastructure. And lastly is accessibility. Accessibility meaning, if you have internet connection, you have a mobile phone, you have a tablet, you can actually learn. Now, informatics actually partnered with Skillsoft, and we developed this ION, or we call ION, Informatics Online. Skillsoft is one of the US biggest online content provider. It's so big that it has actually 25,000 courses. And if you notice, it can range from simple communication courseware to blockchain, to disruptive technologies, to Android development, Amazon Web Services. And we partner with them, and they provided us the content. And all of these are available to our students right now, and for a fraction of the cost of taking individual courses. So informatics partnered with Skillsoft, and we're now delivering our online learning in partnership with them. The other thing that we did is to offer this as well to the LGUs and even to government. Informatics and Skillsoft offer this Taguig, and I think we have people from Taguig, and I think Taguig people would know this, the Tech Talk program initiated by the mayor. It's basically, the objective is really to get the unemployed and the underemployed go into online learning rather than watch the Korean telenovelas and Netflix. And this is a good way actually to spend the quarantine. So right now, we have trained around 25,000 Taguigueños. And one of the nice things that happened here is that we were able to spot actually learners who are so active in e-learning, because we offer them practically around 4,000 courses online. And there's this guy, because of privacy, there's this guy in Taguig who's actually a senior citizen already, who took 800 courses in the span of 6 months. And there's another story. There's this government employee who actually was applying for a job in Dole, and instead of getting a supervisory position, she got a director position simply because she has 6 badges or 6 certifications that she secured from this program, this Tech Talk program of Taguig. And again, all of this were made available through informatics and Skillsoft. The other one, which I'm also proud of, and we did this also with Secretary Mon Lopez, will be the DTI PET project. And the objective of this is to really develop digital natives for digital companies. I think I think I saw that Secretary Mon Lopez was a speaker in a few talks with UST. And a lot of online companies like Lazada, like Shopee, are actually looking for digital programmers, for people who are very well versed in e-commerce. And DTI partnered with us to offer those digital skills. And right now, we're training 1,000, actually 10,000 students applied, 1,000 students are into the program already. And we have already graduated most of them in the program. Now, let's talk about LMS. I think the LMS is something which schools really wanted. It practically, an LMS of a school provides the platform that handles all aspects of the learning process. So it's where the content is. So there's a lot of LMS providers out there, Brightspace, Canvas, Moodle, Blackboard, and I think UST is using Blackboard right now. Informatics decided actually to go for Brightspace. But just to illustrate to you, there's a lot of technologies available. The problem is each of those technologies do not talk to each other. So what the LMS does is actually to unify everything. Okay, so whether you're using Google Forms, Google Drive, still doing manual reports, the LMS actually simplifies and automates all these virtual solutions in a simple and virtual manner. I'll show you this slide about an LMS.
That helps you reach every learner. It makes teaching and learning easier by letting you focus on what's most important, your students and their experience. You can start building courses quickly by simply dragging and dropping content into them. You can create content right in the system by adding images or videos with just a few clicks. The responsive interface looks great on a laptop, tablet, or smartphone, and it works on any device. Brightspace also lets you teach the way you want. Built-in communication tools let you create and connect your learning experience with homepage newsfeeds, online discussions, and web conferencing. And whether you're fully online, blended, or flipped, Brightspace lets you use lots of different pedagogical approaches, like competency-based education and gamification. It helps you work smarter too. Built-in analytics lets you quickly check on how everyone in the class is doing. You can also dive deeper to review individual performance in more detail. And with smart rules and smart tools, you can automatically trigger activities based upon what a student does or doesn't do to personalize their learning experience. Easy, flexible, smart. That's Brightspace.
And the reason why we wanted Brightspace is because actually used by most of the big universities in the US. Even New York Department of Education, West Virginia Department of Education, Singapore Management University uses it. So we're happy with it because it's so simple to use. It's not actually a technology company with education solutions. It's actually an education company that uses technology to aid teaching and learning. The other edtech is video-assisted learning, and I think most of the teachers are using this now. I know some teachers now are recording themselves rather than doing TikTok dance. Probably you can record a lesson. So the nice thing about videos, they're very enriching for students, and for teachers, it reduces also the workload. So rewind lang na rewind kung gusto matuto. Now, this is something surprising. I think a lot of educators might hate me for this about social media, but social media is something that you can use in education. Now, note that the Philippines actually rank #1 in social media. This reality right now, even beating Colombia and beating them by 30 minutes, 4 hours, 15 minutes. And in terms of internet usage, look, 10 hours of our time, or almost 11 hours. And the global average only 6 hours. This is the latest data, January data. And our adoption to e-commerce, in 2021 is now 80.2%. Now, this is something which I'd like to, tell the other educators. I think rather than fight technology, you have to live with technology right now and use it. And Instagram is actually the preferred social media platform of our students. 59% of them have Instagram. So why don't we use it? So, and if you would look at the social platforms used, Facebook, YouTube, WhatsApp, and Instagram, I think it's about time that we tap into the social media. So if you notice, most schools right now are using Instagram. If you look at the right side, one of the teachers has an Instagram page, and teachers can actually create lessons for sharing and post them, not only in Instagram, but also in YouTube. So it creates this culture of collaboration and sharing amongst them. But of course, the teachers should be aware on how to use it. Hindi pwede pabayaan lang ng estudyante, Otherwise, they'll be posting things that teachers won't do. So it should be still in a controlled environment. This is what we want, and this is something that we don't actually get in school. It's the learning analytics brought about by either an LMS or an e-learning platform. It's really to measure and report student learning. In fact, when a student logs on to an LMS, it already tracks. It can track actually where the student goes and how fast he accomplishes the project or the lesson. So it's a good way for the teacher to get insights on the learning process of students and also see what students really like. Sometimes if they skip a subject, probably that's boring. So the teachers can actually remove it and replace it with something else. So you can track login threads, you can count the number of course access, and even the tools usage. Now, gamification. Gamification is different from games. Gamification in education means actually in motivating them and incentivizing them, and use game design elements in the learning environment. An example of this would be point systems, leaderboards, badges. Now, let me share with you an insight that we got. I think everyone's familiar with Minesweeper. Probably this is one of the first games that you learn when you learned Windows. And I was questioning myself why there's a Minesweeper in Windows. And the reason for that is because actually Minesweeper teaches when Windows was introduced, a mouse was introduced. Minesweeper actually teaches everyone how to click the mouse. And we noticed that when we trained Department of Education supervisors, these are almost senior citizens, introduced actually a computer and takot na takot, sabi nila baka mabura ko. And one of the lessons we told them, okay, mag-Minesweeper ka because it would teach them how to click. Now, what's the use of the solitaire? Solitaire is actually used to teach them how to drag and drop. Because mahirap yan, how can you click, you drag and drop? Teach them solitaire. And doon sila nag-exercise. For 1 hour, mag-solitaire kayo. So again, this is where I think gamification plays a big role in education. And the nice thing about badges, by the way, is that it encourages students to immediately acquire a badge or this is called a digital certificate that they can attach after to their names. If in social media, now, for example, in this case, the student learned data analysis from Skillsoft. And when she graduates from that, she gets a badge. And that badge, you can actually put in your social media, in your LinkedIn. And the person who looks into it can click the badge and verify whether that's the right person, or whether what she learned. Now, if I'm an employer, I click on the badge and see what she learned. So again, this is, and in informatics, nakakatuwa din because our students, paramihan sila ng badges. Of course, they cannot get a badge until they pass the course. So again, it's an incentive for students, instant gratification, what they call it. So where do we go from here? I think this is I'm actually addressing this to all the schools. Of course, we all know that DepEd went into learning modules, and they did a little of online and distance learning. Now, I think the next step is for them, and which is now being done, is to have limited face-to-face. And what I noticed when I looked at how other countries did it, it's actually a limited face-to-face whereby half of the students would not go to school so that there'd be social distancing. The other half would be doing it online. They do it MWF. Then TTH, iba na namang set. So we reduce the number of students per class. But you need actually technology to do that. And the fourth one is actually what we call the hybrid and the blended approach, whereby there's a mix of face-to-face and online homeschooling. And this is, I think, where we're heading. Honestly, we won't go back to 100% face-to-face. Eventually, we'll be doing hybrid. Now, there's this thing about flipped classrooms, they call it. Well, flipped classroom is actually, you redefine actually how teachers, redefine the role of the teachers in the classroom. A traditional classroom, the teacher is actually the sage on the stage, But on a flipped classroom, if you would notice, the teacher is the coach. So the students would be talking to each other and the teacher would just be facilitating the discussion. That's flipped. The other one's blended learning. I think there's a confusion of what's hybrid and what's blended learning. Blended learning is where the teacher and the students, the teacher says to the students, hey, half of this we go, do offline, the half would be online. So it's a teacher who still actually tells the students when to go online and when to go face-to-face. Hybrid, meanwhile, is a flexible balance of online, offline. And it's out to the student and the teacher, after the student who will determine what works for the student. Some students are actually slow, let's face it. And they might need repetition, they need rewinding, something which you cannot do face-to-face. I remember that the nice thing about e-learning is that you can rewind 10 times, and until you get it. But inside the classroom, face-to-face, you cannot tell the teacher, Ma'am, can you repeat the entire lesson? You cannot do that. Pag ginawa ko yung dati no high school, paparusahan ako ni Ma'am Evelyn sa ni Ma'am Nanette. Ma'am, pakirewind, hindi ako nakikinig. Or inaantok ako, hindi pwede yun. But in a hybrid learning mode, the student can actually rewind, repeat, even take quizzes as much as he can until he gets it. So as they say, different students, if there are different students, there are different ways of learning. So what are the learnings and insights? First, I think education must move with the digital world. No doubt about it. Now, let's take this opportunity in this pandemic to revolutionize education to EdTech. And I think educators in schools like the UST should be the prime mover here. Now, remember, technology is not an enemy. It's not intended actually to replace teachers, but really to enhance learning. So the role of technology is to enhance rather than replace human teachers' capabilities and human interaction. Now, I think the new learning right now would be a combination of these components. People where we have teachers, the school admin students. Course where we have content and learning principles. Hardware will still be there, school buildings will be there, but the gadgets and aids would be there. Now, softwares are, I think, the new thing that would happen to education. And lastly would be connectivity. Now, I just read this yesterday. And this is sad. This is sad because if you notice, we fell actually in digital competitiveness. So if you notice, the Philippine performance went down, and the big factor, the big dip happened in knowledge. The Philippines ranked 58, by the way, as of yesterday. So even our NEDA Secretary General, Carl Chua, also aired this to the Senate committee just recently, last September 10. He said that the lack of face-to-face class would limit the learning ability of students. And it would have a lasting effect when the student enters the labor force. So the effect would not just be on students not learning, but also on the economy, because we might have a labor force which is lacking in knowledge. And again, this is where technology should come in to replace face-to-face. Now, let me end this slide by saying, and let me paraphrase what Plato said, our needs are creator. It means that in this case, we really need something to address the situation. And this necessity is going to be the mother of change and innovation. So with that, again, I thank everyone. If you have questions, you can actually email me, and I'm present in social media. And I have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and WhatsApp. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Leo. We really have come a long way to self-actualization and actually digital natives are our students right now, while most teachers, especially us retired, are digital migrants. So I'm sure there will be questions later. So please stay on for the open forum later. Okay, thank you. All right. So we come to our last speaker, who is very impressive. He has 2 summa cum laudes. Reverend Father Jesus J. M. Miranda Jr. is from the Order of Preachers. And, oh my gosh, of course he, wow, I'm sorry, I messed it up. Okay, anyway, Reverend Father Jesus Miranda is now teaching at the UST Graduate School. If you want to meet him personally, then you will finally find him there. He's teaching there, and also at De La Salle University College of Education, where he finished with high distinction his doctorate degree. Okay, so please welcome Reverend Father J. Miranda.
Thanks to that. Do you hear me now?
Sir, can you please come closer to the microphone, because audio is a little problematic.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks to that kind introduction, Ma'am Nanette Fernandez. And of course, thank you to the organizer of this 2021 summit by the UST Alumni Association, headed by Dr. Evelyn Songko, and its Vice President, Dr. Ida TIONKO. Maraming salamat po for inviting me. And of course, to our Dean at the Graduate School, Dr. Michael Vasco. And of course, the UST CCPED Director, Ma'am Jocelyn Agkawili. And to my fellow resource speakers, good morning po sa inyo. And of course, to all our webinar participants, good morning. And I think among the anong tawag dito, speakers, I think I'm the only one who is not directly involved with the industry, but instead directly involved with the Academe as a faculty of the graduate school. I would like to share with you some slides, okay, as I discuss this, as I participate, as I discuss some thoughts about this topic. How can I, paano po yung pag-ano nito? Sandali lang. Okay. Okay. Just to give a rationale of my discussion, I think there's really undeniably an interaction and a close collaboration if we want our society and we want our country to what they call this, to progress, no? And of course to help all citizens to have a good life and all this, because there is no one sector in our society that can help us in improving our lives. And so the academe, the industry, and government should work together in order to provide this, what we may call strength. That's why in one of my columns in Manila Times, I think that was 4 years ago or 3 years ago, I've already mentioned this, that all three sectors should be working together. That's why we have to break all forms of barriers that divides the education sector, the government, and industry. And then I mentioned something also about the centralized knowledge productivity and the vanishing peripheries. Okay, just like a reality check. Reality check. Schools are not anymore the center of gravity when it comes to knowledge productivity. And I think you have heard about what they call this, corporate universities. Even one mentioned about your competitor is not anymore the next university in town or in the city. You know, our competitor now is Google, because we are not anymore the center of productivity of knowledge, even if we do research. But instead, there are many institutions now who, just like educational institutions, they are also producing knowledge. Okay, just reading Fortune magazine, they feature one time Merck's was this Merck's pharmaceutical, and they were displaying their laboratories for their training scientists in their institution itself, at Merck's what do you call this, Merck's Drugs and Pharmaceutical Company, wherein their laboratories could even match the high-tech laboratories of Harvard and Stanford. Why? Because they really invest in that and they train their people. They don't have to always depend on universities to provide them talents and knowledge. Okay, I think we have to be aware of that, and that's why we need to do better as higher educational institution in order to be able to respond to the needs of the Industry 4.0 and still become relevant as educational institution. And then I have written something about in the internationalization preparedness. Nowadays, we always say, this school, we always make it slogan, we are doing we are one of the excellent schools, or we are excellent. I think word excellence is the much abused word nowadays and the most butchered word. But I think you cannot say that you are excelling and you have level of excellence if you cannot compete internationally. That's why the barometer, or the what we may call the measurement of success and excellence is not something that can only be found locally, but you should be ready to go out, because the world has become small because of globalization. So I think those are the things that I can say about the need for close collaboration between academe, industry, and the government. Now there's a plethora of literature that speaks about the Fourth Industrial Revolution and education. What I could suggest is at least get hold of these three literature. The Higher Education in the Era of the Fourth Industrial Revolution by Nancy Gleason, and the one of Armand Doucet, where he serves as the editor of Teaching in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and of course a very foundational literature in understanding the Fourth Industrial Revolution is Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum. Okay, at least I have mentioned to you some literature that you can hold on to in order to have a wider and deeper understanding of this Industry 4.0 that is influencing all of us now. And so I have divided this sharing into two parts. First, where are we as people being influenced by this Industry 4.0? And then later on, to answer directly the question, how do higher education or institutions of higher learning should behave, should restructure, should remodel themselves in order to be able to respond to the demands of this Industry 4.0. But first, where are we now being influenced by this Industry 4.0? And I think all of you would agree that we live in an accelerated speed of change. And I think the Industry 4.0 is very influential on this. First, in technology, in information, knowledge, and skills. From time to time, or with just short while, our gadgets would need to progress or would need to be changed in order to have the latest model, the latest technology in order to help us in our studies or in our work. And always remember that in our time, there is already a short shelf life of knowledge and skills. Kung baga sa pagkain, ang knowledge mo tsaka skills, kung pagkain niya, napapanis ka agad. Why? Because every now and then, there would always be a new knowledge that would come out, and then new skills that you need in order to be able to survive or to be able to thrive in a work where you are situated. Okay? Mabilis ang mga pagbabago. Mabilis magbago ang mga bagay-bagay, especially knowledge and skills. Okay, and I think most of you would agree on that. No? The world has become fast and it's been moving fast, and this is part of the impact that the Industry 4.0 has on us. And then if there is an accelerated speed of change, then what kind of characteristics that you must have in this 4.0 industry? We are asked to be more flexible, adaptable. You should be fast learner, okay, and be able to sustain being an adult learner, and also give emphasis on being a lifelong learner. As they say, if the other universities or other institutions that produces knowledge, no, most likely they have same strategies with you. Most likely they have the same number of talented people, just like what you have. And so what's your advantage? The only advantage you have is how fast can you learn? Sabi nga, no, if the rate of learning is greater than or faster than the rate of change, most likely you would thrive. Most likely you would succeed. Most likely you would excel. Most likely you would lead. Okay? That's why something to reflect on. How flexible are we? How adaptable are we? Are you a fast learner? And are you able to sustain being adult learner or lifelong learner? Soon in the discussion, I would mention this. No? We are because things move fast, because knowledge move fast and they can change fast, then we need always to relearn and relearn in order to be able to go along with the flow brought about by the impact of Industry 4.0. Borrowing this thought, no, from the CEO of Omron Asia, he says, we are moving from this current society to autonomous society. And what is that? From being centralized to distributed. And I think even in finances, financial field is something that you have heard, no? Like blockchain, and you know that financing model, wherein, as they say in blockchain, no, it's not anymore depending on the central office, but a decentralized, what they call this, decentralized banks or institution, wherein they decide on their own about the finances they do on you if you apply for business. And then we are moving from real to digital, and I think much of us have experienced this in teaching. And then there is from controlled to autonomous, and then from linear to circular. That's why I think the main thing that we need to take into consideration here is that are you learning enough? Are you learning fast in order to be able to get the data that you need for your decision making? Because the decision you will be making, it will not anymore depend on the central office or a central institution, but instead you are given much authority now and much autonomy to decide on your own. Are you taking advantage, for example, of the data that you can gather? Are you taking advantage of the skill that you need to learn or that you have already learned? Because sooner or later, you are left on your own to decide. You are left on your own to put direction on your branch or on your institution as asked by your higher authority. Okay? Okay, I think that's one of the situations where we are. Around 4 years or 5 years ago, the University of California in Berkeley made a study, a research, as regards the initial impact of the Industry 4.0. And in the research, these are the items that came out. Okay, they said there is a transformation of the workplace into an era of tech disruption. And what are these? They say this time we are already having liquid workforce. Employees able to retrain to stay digitally relevant. Okay. If there are companies before or organizations before or institutions that have been hiring for life, I think that's something that they need to rethink. Why? Because people now have many options. nobody stays too long in one organization or in one institution. So with so many options, how are you going to make your employee, especially the talented ones, stay? Okay, and then how are you going on the other hand, naman, you as an employee, how are you going to manage to be able to stay afloat and move from one institution to the next, especially if you are continue to upgrade yourself, no? Reskill yourself with the things that you need to learn. And then it says there, Hollywood model, hiring practices, project-based work style. Much of the work now are only project-based. Okay, that's why they call it Hollywood model. And then there is integrated talent management, workforce planning, and encompasses all types of talent, and permanent and contingent alike. And then there's a greater flexible working options to attract mobile talent. Okay, much of the work now, I think we have experienced it. Much of the work now is something that we cannot anymore find in the office, but instead you can find it anywhere as long as you submit and comply with what is being asked from you, especially if you are in a way, very much trained on digital platform. Okay, you can work anywhere, and I think that's what employees are looking for. Are they given a flexible time? Are they given a chance to be flexible in their working situation and all this? And then there's skills agility as automation pervades workplace. Okay, and then training women and other workers so they have more tech skills. And then there's another point here that the research had pointed out now. What employers and students want. University credentials that are more modular, industry-aligned, experiential, digital. And I think that's where we need to answer that question. No? What are we doing as educational institutions, providing for our alumni, for our students, so that the industry would find them to be attractive? Are we still providing a curriculum that is very much relevant? It is already industry aligned, and I think that's why we see the importance of this collaboration between academe and industry and even government. Okay, the standard university degrees, but also micromasters and nano degrees. If you try to look at it, we are moving away from that too structured program that higher educational institutions are providing. Can you provide a micromasters or nano degrees? Lifelong learning to keep skills up to date with the fast changing knowledge that we have and skills. I think we need to relearn and relearn. Okay, evidence of engagement in world of work, such as project outcomes. Okay, graduate degrees for a number of jobs. And what kind of skills? Students want to be hired with a gig economy and technology. Employers prioritize skills over geography. And you see from these points that came out from the research, you see there is a change of paradigm. There's change of even framework on how employees now see themselves and how employers should address these needs. And I think these are, as the research says, this came about because of the impact of the industry 4.0. But how ready are we as an educational institution in providing the skills that are needed by our students to address this situation? Okay, that's why reviewing that book by Klaus Schwab on Fourth Industrial Revolution, I have mentioned that in my column that IQ is good, but EQ is better. We have to understand that the Industry 4.0 is not only about the advancement of technology. As Klaus Schwab mentioned, it is all about instead making humans at the center, okay, at the center of the situation. technology is just a means, not an end in itself. But instead, technology should be there in order to serve humanity. And so what is needed is still much collaboration among humans, among people. No? They should still learn how to empathize. They should build up and in a way, make sure that they are having a good relationship with one another, because no technology could really, in a way, help advance society if humans are not, in a way, having a good relationship with one another. And so even if we need EQ now is the one being given emphasis on. Okay? And then another thing is that we have to be ready to go with disruption rather than evolution. There are things that evolve, we see them slowly changing, but there are things that we wake up in the morning, they're just there. Okay? For example, the platforms that we all now using, or we are all involved in. One day you wake up and then there is Uber, and then there is Grab, and then there is Airbnb. How did that, did they not evolve? I don't think they evolved. Just one day you just discover that they are there. They are already the most popular, in a way, partners that we have in our business. The platforms that operate through courseware and all this. And another thing is simplicity may be a virtue, but complexity now is a necessity. If you think you still live in a very simple life, maybe you belong to the last century, because the world now has become very complex. Now, if you find your surrounding to be complex, in your workplace to be complex, then most likely you live in our time, because the world has become complex. And you have to be at home with complexity. Okay? I mean, those are just some of the points that I am reflecting on the impact of this Industry 4.0 and how we should address it. And so the main question now is, how can we design then an education that equips learners with the knowledge and skills to thrive in this transforming world due to the impact of Industry 4.0? So, or how should educational institutions of higher learning respond to these needs? And I have some points to share with you. First, on the curriculum. And I mentioned here, substantial change to the science and technologies curriculum is a must. Now, try to see as I give an example. How near or how far are you as a head of a educational institution in doing this, especially if you are in tertiary level or graduate level? The curriculum, it says, curriculum remodeling, restructuring is a must so that students can develop capacity in the rapidly emerging areas of genomics, data science, artificial intelligence, robotics, and nanomaterials. And then it says here, the fourth industrial revolution STEM curriculum would reconsider the curriculum within the traditional primary sciences. That is the traditional thing that we have, subjects like biology, chemistry, physics. Can it be a place, a higher premium for training in computer science subjects as a form of 4IR literacy? And just reading this, what came to my mind is what Mr. Leo RIINGEN of Informatics just mentioned a while ago. It's a sad state that we need to catch up in our digital competitiveness. And it says here, we need to level up our knowledge on computer and digitalization. Okay? And then there's an example here. Try to see. Within biology, new approaches might include training within introductory courses to discuss emerging areas such as synthetic biology and molecular design. Do we have this now in our curriculum in science? Another example, new course in engineering biology that allows students to design their own life forms on computers and bioprint them to solve practical problems in medicine, public health, and environmental management. And then trying to see the example, a Stanford curriculum, it says here, there is a new major known as bioengineering, which trains students at the interface of life sciences and engineering and merges expertise and resources in the departments of medicine, biology, and engineering. And now you see the interrelatedness and the interdisciplinary move in learning, okay? And then another example that I can show you is similar innovations within chemistry include a worldwide proliferation of courses degree programs in green chemistry, which blends chemistry, biology, and environmental science to allow students to engage on real environmental problems such as synthetic fuels, bioplastics, toxicology, and to train students in technique to reduce pollution. And then another example, a new physics curriculum emphasizing 4IR. Collaborative skills can also be developed based on project where students design and build original musical instruments, cryptographic gadgets, and other inventions collaboratively. Are we near that, or do our curriculum near those things that are being developed now, especially by these schools who see themselves to be advancing in responding to this impact of fourth industrial revolution? And then another example, additional educational responses to 4IR might require a restructuring of institutions to provide new science programs and departments in emerging interdisciplinary fields to more efficiently provide trained workers to help advance and accelerate the development of ever more sophisticated biotech, nanotech, materials, and AI. Okay? And then there is any educational plan for the fourth IR must be built upon the emerging development of hybrid online and in-person instruction and efficient and seamless integration of global video conferencing and wide array of asynchronous educational resources. You see, they have already thought of this even before we experienced pandemic. Now we have all this virtual classroom, but even before we had these online classes, they have already put this into mind about this blended approach to teaching and learning using technology, of course. And then the blended instruction and optimization of flip and online courses mentioned by Mr. RIINGEN a while ago of informatics. These flip and online courses will make more efficient learning environments that can adapt for diversity in preparation of students. And that means building on from the contribution of the third industrial revolution. So not everything that we have now should only be focused on the fourth industrial revolution, but much of the things that we can still use are those practices and the technology we had from the previous industrial revolution. And so what teaching and learning approaches and spaces do we need if this is the case? Try to check on these points and try to see how serious are we in giving emphasis on this. First, the multidisciplinary approach to teaching and learning, especially with the disciplines that we have. Biology, chemistry, math, and all this. History, and all this. So we need to break down the silos now of discipline because much universities now are moving into the interdisciplinary approach to teaching and learning. And then there is a self-organizing learning environment. Are we giving emphasis on this? Do we see this to be important? Self-organizing learning environment, because SOUL, short for self-organizing learning environment, gives emphasis on self-directed learning. Some would call it pedagogy. But then I think this is something that is important to us now, especially that much of the time we are online. How much space do we give to students so that they can have self-managed learning? And I think that is connected with the third one, the meta learning or metacognition, self-directed learning and thinking. Do we give much emphasis more in our classrooms or in our schools or in our digital or virtual classroom? Collaborative learning, problem-based learning. How serious are we in providing them problem-based learning? And then how serious are we in providing experiential learning to students? So these are summed up in a general form, but I think something we need to reflect on. Are we already learner-centered? Or are we still focused on being teacher-centered? Okay. And then do we acquire and utilize deep skills? Do we provide it for our students? And then again, here is again a question of to build a strong digital capabilities. Kaya nga sabi kanina, no? Digital competitiveness is something that we need to level up, no? Among the students here in the Philippines. No? Strong digital capabilities. And then another demand that is asked from us is to train and to teach our students to have cognitive flexibility and the interdisciplinary understanding of complex problems. And then another point that we need to harness and to have more is boot camps for learning. Some professors in tertiary and graduate level would say that this is the antithesis to higher education. Why? Because in higher education, because of too much formality and structure, you need to wait for 1 semester or 2 semesters in order to reskill yourselves. But in boot camps, just few weeks, no? You just have few weeks, and then you can level up your knowledge and the much needed skills that you're looking for. Okay? So those are the things that I have raised. How near are we doing this, or how far are we doing this as practitioners or professors or administrators in institutions of higher learning? Now, I think we will get it all wrong. I'm down to my, I think, last 3 slides. We will get it all wrong if we think that the Industry 4.0 is just about technical or technological advancement. I think what is also being given emphasis is not only the advancement of technology and all these things that are related to it, like Internet of Things, artificial intelligence. But instead, it's also a time for the higher education institution to see the new role of liberal arts and humanities. Because as I mentioned, at the center of this fourth industrial revolution is not only technology, but still man, but still the humanity. And so do we find, or are we prepared, no, to reformulate and to remodel in our educational institution the new role of liberal arts and the humanities? Because the liberal arts and the humanities are supposed to articulate the following: what it means to be human in the fourth industrial revolution, as the revolution brings new conditions. There are new conditions now. Before, we always relate with each other physically, personally. But now we relate with each other, as the new condition gives us, virtually. Now we got new spaces. How can this be deepened? How can we find meaning in it? And how could that be articulated? And I think it's the humanities. And it is the discipline and the liberal arts that would help us find meaning and deepen our understanding of a new situation of humanity wherein much is assisted by technology. Okay? I would like to cite this wonderful words and thought of Peter Handrick, no? From his article, From Anthropocentric Humanism to Critical Humanism in Digital Education. This is the shift of teaching approach from anthropocentric humanism to critical post-humanism. And it says, this shift of approaches stresses that digital education is more than a purely technical term, okay, or a purely technical concern. An online environment change the dynamics of space and time to create new learning cultures that challenge our earlier notions of social interactions and enable new perspectives on our shared humanity, independent of geographic boundaries. So that's Peter Jandvik. That's why maybe sociologically, because of of technology, before we can form communities by reaching out to people, physiologically, physically, no, in a real time, also and then we see each other in person. But this time, can we say a community that is virtual, right? There are virtual communities. How would this, and how would sociology, in a way, help us define that? Or in education, can we say that what we are doing now is really the function and also the role of school when we are only having virtual education or virtual learning, online teaching and learning? There is a new relationship now by teachers and students that is mediated by technology. Who can deepen that understanding? Who can give a new definition of that relationship? And I think that's the role of the humanities and the social sciences to help us, have a higher or understand or deeper understanding and a wider understanding and a new understanding of these new spaces and relationships that we have. In history, for example, what new narratives do historians have to write with this Industry 4.0 affecting us as society, as group of people, as a nation? Okay? And I think those are just some examples wherein we can find the humanities and liberal arts having a new approach in understanding humanity, being influenced by the Industry 4.0. Okay, and then take a look at number 3. The role of liberal arts and humanities to strengthen and sustain the social and cultural fabric of people. We don't forget the culture of people, especially the ethnicity of people, especially the place where they are, their history, and their social relationship with one another. Because at the center of this Industry 4.0 is still the humans. Technology is just there to be a tool. Okay? And then number 4, it says there, guide the moral and ethical thinking on the use of technological advancement. And I think this is very, very important. Why? We need morals, we need ethical principles that involve digital, biological, and physical interrelatedness in humans. Okay, so how would you find this relationship among people who are only meeting and doing in a way, or having relationship only virtually? How could they be governed by ethical principles or moral principles? And then lastly, it says there, the role of liberal arts and humanities in Industry 4.0 is to articulate the political effects of the convergence of the physical, I have mentioned this, digital and biological world. What kind of laws that need to be formulated? What are the policies that we need? What kind of norms should be given emphasis on? And I think these are all things that can be articulated by humanities through the help of the liberal arts. Okay, so in a way, as though try to balance things, the Industry 4.0 as higher educational institutions should look at it. It's not just giving attention to to technology, but instead we should also see how would the liberal arts and the humanities find their role in this reality that we have now, being influenced by Industry 4.0. And I think that ends my presentation, and then just a few words. Mr. RIINGEN mentioned a while ago that this pandemic actually is an opportunity for us to remodel our educational approaches. And I keep on saying it. I think I have also written it in one of my of my column when I said that if there is one thing that this pandemic had taught us, and you know what is that? It has made us realize that there are many pathways towards learning. And personally, I'm always an advocate of moving away of too much structure and too much formality in teaching and learning. Because if we give so much focus on that, much of the time what we are doing is just a compliance and not a real joy of teaching and learning. So with that, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Father Jay. Really, that was, I think, really fitting to have you as the last speaker for today. And I did not do you justice, so let me just say that Father Jay specializes in organization studies and development, educational leadership and management, management of entrepreneurial and adaptive learning institutions, and of course, philosophy of education. And as I said, he was summa cum laude twice in sacred theology and in his master's. So we really are very, very fortunate to have him today. He's also, you can also catch him if you don't want to enroll in the UST Graduate School or the College of Education at La Salle. You can also catch him because he is a regular columnist of the Manila Times. And if you're into Filipiniana Sacra, which is the official publication of the ecclesiastical faculties of UST, where he is also editor. Thank you so much. We really, really had a very, very good session with you, Father Jay. All right, so we are now going to move into the chance for you members to send in your questions. I have several already, but while we're compiling them, let's look at this video of our sponsors.
Malaki ang epekto sa amin ng pandemic. Bagsak ang negosyo namin pero sinagip kami ng online selling. Kung hindi siguro dahil sa Globe, wala kasi nag-try ako ng iba. Wala Very reliable ang network nila.
Sa aming mga nagla-livestream, mahalaga yung maayos na koneksyon. Nakakahiya pag naglalagang signal. Malaki na pinag-iba ngayon. Okay na yung 4G pero mas lalong gumanda ng 5G. Our live stream will not be possible kung hindi malakas ang signal ng Globe.
Yung alam ko na 15 to 20 Mbps na speed, nadoble na pala. Partida, 4G lang ang gamit ko nito. Ang laking bagay kasi pag yung video calling sa streaming hindi naglalag. Pati yung pag-feed namin sa base, sobrang smooth na din. Ever since I'm using Globe, kaya kitang-kita ko ang improvement na network.
Because so much of our lives are online. If you get disconnected,
Ready for our recitation, kids?
do you even exist? Welcome to the Red Light. Introducing Red Fiber. 100% fiber internet. A life with reliable connection. With flexible plans for different lifestyles. No worries of getting cut off. And dependable customer service. So when it matters most, you're always ready.
Good job, Jacob.
Get ready for the Red Life. Red Fiber. Reliability redefined.
Okay, so thank you very much. And let's have our four panelists, our four speakers now to answer some questions. So first, of course, ladies first. We have a question for Ma'am Yoli. Do Philippine telecom and tech companies like Globe offer free online courses in your in-house universities, like those offered by Apple or Verizon in the US? And how do we access it?
Okay, so as you know, Globe has its own university also called Globe University, right? Now, essentially today, our Globe University is dedicated for our own employees. Because the things that we are teaching there has to do with some of the key areas where we should really be good at, like marketing, communications, engineering, network management, IT. So in terms of, is it free and accessible today? It's not yet free and accessible because, again, it is for employees only. However, we are doing collaboration work with universities, like I said, with LaSalle. And we are collaborating also with TESDA. So these are the areas where we put out content, like our e-library, which we gave for free. We gave to the DepEd Commons. And there's a whole lot of content there that people can access also for free, right? So maybe in future, when our IT Academy has already matured, and thank you to Father Miranda, because we've taken a lot of notes from the WEF modalities and curriculum so that we can improve the things that we need to do in the IT Academy. The IT Academy is actually intended to be free, right? It's intended to be free. So we are still in the process of creating the curriculum of the IT Academy. Yeah.
Okay, so I think Dr. Jonel's question also about what are the plans of the company to future plans for providing technologically engaged teaching and learning in this time of pandemic. He's asking if we can also attend to problems like environment, climate change, and mitigating its effects in connection with our school curriculum. So
yeah, if I were to talk about our environment programs and initiatives, I'd take the whole day already, and I didn't want to do that, right? So I focused on the education leg of what we're doing. But in terms of the environment, as you know, Globe is the first Philippine, and I think we are to date the only Philippine company that has signed up to the Science-Based Target Initiative, right? So which means we're using science-based targeting for us to be able to commit and meet our target of net zero carbon emissions by 2050. So that's a lot. That's a huge roadmap that if I were to explain, it's going to take us a long time, right? But suffice it to say that when it comes to environment, we do have a lot of programs. We have a program on against single-use plastics. We have a program on reforestation and nature-based solutions, right? And we have a program on reduction of carbon emissions. So many of our offices right now, including the Globe Tower at the BGC, is already using 100% renewables, right? So that is included in our roadmap for us to be able to hit net zero by 2050, despite the fact that we will continue to increase our network builds. Yeah, so even our network towers, we as much as possible, we don't want to use diesel generators anymore and replacing them with fuel cells and making the network also green.
All right, thank you. At least it's a big yes, and so we know that we're in good. We're getting there. All right. So for Sir Leo ABERION, we have a question. If an employee who gets reinfected, so she already got the first aid on COVID,
yes,
will the person still get then more benefits from ECC? This is from Dr. Tita Barcelo.
Hi, good morning po. Am I audible po?
Yes,
Ma? Uh, was she able to get the benefit during the first infection?
No, I don't know if this is hypothetical, but the
Okay.
question is, if an employee gets reinfected with COVID, will the person get benefits again from ECC?
Okay. So based on the discussion, we didn't encounter yet the same that particular instance, but they can also contact me or the employees ECC office near them to inquire. We also have a hotline and an online platform in order for them to contact as regards the immediate concern, because in most cases, most of the infected who got their assistance were first infections. So we didn't encounter, there was no question yet about, during our series of webinars for 15 sessions, we didn't have any concern as regards the second infection or the reinfection.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For Leo, RIINGEN, I'd like to find out, because you just presented very, very up-to-date as of yesterday, no, of digital competitiveness. What do you think we can do, and can we ever catch up, actually? Because I think connectivity in itself, I had problems too with connectivity just right now. What can we do to level up that digital competitiveness that from which we have fallen?
Well, actually, I can only speak for the knowledge part now, because I think the digital competitiveness scores include knowledge. No? I think as an education institution, we really have to get over this crisis. No? I think we fell in knowledge simply because we were out of the school system for over a year, and as what Socioeconomic Secretary Carcio said, this would have a big impact on productivity later on. So the sooner we get our students to be on board and start learning again, I think our knowledge scores would go up. Now, there are a lot of initiatives being done actually by the government. Of course, these are not actually massive in nature, although directionally they're there. No? One of which would be what I mentioned a while ago. DTI has this PET project. PET stands for Pivot Embrace Technology, whereby they're giving out scholarships. And these scholarships are amounting to over 30,000 pesos each. No? And our population can actually take courses, no? In this case, online. Now, I think Globe as a company has done a lot of good initiatives. Of course, the private sector alone cannot do it without the cooperation of all institutions. So there must be I think a united stand, no, to really come up with strategies and big strategies actually to make giant leaps. No? As they say, no, you can't actually get breakthroughs, no, if you really do big steps. So we really have to break through this the current situation that we have. No? And after the lockdowns really crippled us. No? I learned that there are only 2 countries in the world that have lockdowns. No? One of which is Venezuela, and the other one is the Philippines. So I hope our government can reconsider the lockdown strategy.
Yes, amen to that. Again, especially for seniors who are not allowed out, you know, this is really also affecting our mental and well-being and our anxiety. And so for Father Jay, I think you really ended the webinar exactly of what AAIG is doing, and that is putting STEAM, as Leo actually said, no, adding the art component and the humanities component to our system. Father Jay, a lot of us here are teachers or administrators, so how can we help in assuring that humanity side, that art side, that creative side will be in our online classes, in our blended classrooms?
Yeah, actually, much of the things that I've written for the past months, actually, they all have something to do with that, no? Like the soft skills and all this, no? Soft skills, relationship, and I've been what is this? I just attended this webinar yesterday, an international webinar, and I think it's the same thing that they have been mentioning, no? You see, okay, we try to look at it from a very practical and very realistic situation and point of view that we have. You see, because of this pandemic, so many people have been, challenged, not only financially, but even emotionally, even in our relationship with one another and all this. We have been stressed, no? And they said that, among educators, what you need now, no? Other than comply ng comply, ang dami pang hinihingi, no? Puro puro online na nga klase, nakaka-drain na and all this, no? And then you know what they give emphasis on? Still a good human relationship with one another. When teachers still support one another and they get that support from their principal, from their head, from their heads, no? Kasi ang mahirap na parang hirap na tayong mag-teach, hirap na tayong gawin lahat ito online, wherein actually we didn't really have a strong preparation for it, no? It's only now that we are learning it. Ang hinihingi talaga, no? And that's I think the EQ. Kaya binigyan ko ng emphasis kanina, no? The empathy. Hirap na hirap kami, may mga stress dito and all this, no? At mahirap ang kalagayan na naka-lockdown and all this, we are not going out. And then all we need is just a support, no? Just maintain that kind relationship with one another, that we still care for one another, send messages with one another. Maliliit na bagay pero they mean a lot, especially for us educators. Okay? Especially for us educators. So, gamit na natin, sabi nga, no, number 1 tayo social media. Pwede ba yung mga messages natin tungkol sa how can we support one another? How can we help one another? Huwag natin kalilimutan na that's the emphasis I gave on. I really gave, no, at the end of this yung point na ang technology, tool natin yan para tayo lumakas pa rin ang relationship with one another. It's still humanity that is at the center, not technology. Technology is a tool. Kaya nga, tignan mo yung sa gospel, no? Pagiging pare, sasabihin ko na. Sabi dun sa gospel, it's not man, it's not money that should serve man, no? It's man, or it's not man serving money, no? It's the money that should serve man. Same thing with technology. Technology should serve humanity. It's not humanity serving technology. This tool is within us. We have to use it in order that we prosper as humans, and then our relationship will be good. And I think that's the main point, no, of this. Of what I'm trying to drive at, no. Sentro pa rin ang humanity. Especially with the things that I gave emphasis on, the liberal arts and the humanities in the Industry 4.0, especially our educational institution. Wag nating kalilimutan yan kasi talagang kulang, no? Mali ang understanding natin na Industry 4.0 kung kalimutan natin ang humanities and the liberal arts.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Father Jay. From the panel, is there anyone who would like to ask a question, or we just have a little more time?
Professor Fernandez, can I just add sa sinabi ni Father Jay? That is the reason why yung mental health and mental wellness is very important during this time. So we've done a lot of support initiatives, especially for the teachers. Not only the teachers, pati yung non-teaching staff and also the students and parents. The webinars that we come out with in terms of mental health, mental wellness, it's very much attended, very popular, no? Because a lot of people are really trying to cope with everything that is happening around us. So you can imagine it's not just the changes, the personal changes in terms of your professional work, if you're a teacher, and then sa students being able to cope na mag-isa ka lang kasi there's no online learning, and the parents has to teach the student inside the house when the mother still has to cook dinner for the family and all of that, no? So it's not just that, marami pa . yung nangyayari kasi around us, even yung economic factor that is going on around us in the country. And then obviously when you go on social, ang nakikita mo, there's a lot of death. Diba? In Facebook, when you see Facebook now, there's so much death around us. So lahat yon is affecting us as a whole, as one whole community, as a country. So talagang kailangan pangalagaan natin ang ating mental wellness.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so actually, before we let the speakers go, may I ask them to give a parting message to everyone in this seminar, in webinar? So we'll start with Ma'am Yoli. Superwoman ka eh.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity because I add diversity to this panel. At any rate, I just want to say that, you know, as our other panelists have said, and as we have practiced also in our community in Globe, we can't do it alone. We can't do it alone. We really have to collaborate as one ecosystem of stakeholders for all of us to benefit, not just the industry, but also the sector, the education sector. And we're right? Because IR 4.0 is not going away, because that is the future. When you're talking about technology now, we're moving into 5G, and there are all the other countries that are already looking at 6G. Right? So mabilis talaga ang technological advancement. And we have to be able to keep up with the advancement. So whether it is the laws, the enabling laws that we need to put out there to mandate digital transformation in the country, the use of digital technologies, the creation of new modalities of learning, the creation of new curriculum that will allow us to keep up with the technology and with the times. So my parting words are, let's please collaborate. We can't do it alone.
Yes, thank you very much, Ma'am Yoli. Okay, Doc ABERION? Doc Leo?
Yes, Professor. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I would just like to remind everyone that COVID is real, because even I myself, I did not expect that my wife would get infected with COVID. So we just finished our quarantine here in Cebu, and just be safe for the administrators. For example, let's always think of the safety of our employees, our students, and the rest of the stakeholders, because once there's this infection gets in with our respective campuses, it's very difficult for us. It really affects everyone. So just a reminder, or if you have concerns, just visit PAPSA FB for updates with regard to private school concerns. And you can also directly contact me through my Facebook. My Facebook is Leo ABERION. You can just send me a private message for inquiries or assistance in relation to the Department of Labor and Employment or the Employees Compensation Commission. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Doc Leo. And now the other Leo, Leo RIINGEN, please.
Yes, actually, Professor RIINGEN, Sir RIINGEN is my boss. I am the senior high school principal of informatics. This is my first time to meet him in the platform. So I just met yes po, Sir Leo. Thank you so much. I'm your senior high school principal in Cebu, in Visayas. Thank you.
Nice to see you, Doc Leo. No? And again, I'd like to thank the UST and the university for initiating this, as well as the Alumni Association. I think our association is really doing a good job augmenting the university in its mission. Now, as a parting word to everyone, I think this pandemic can be viewed negatively and positively. So, of course, we've heard a lot of, as what Ma'am Yoli said, a lot of bad news. But I look at the pandemic as a great reset. I think this is a good time for us to start, especially, we have a lot of time after today. So it's a great restart, and technology is actually the great equalizer. And I've seen that happening all over us. I've seen a lot of people who are good cooks now selling their food online. And I've seen a lot of dancers, showing their dance moves online. And that's technology. And there's no stopping actually everyone to be teachers, to be educators. In fact, it democratizes learning as well, because I know the great teachers are also not just in the academe, but also in the industry. And this is a good time for everyone to maybe share your knowledge. YouTube is around, the free share, learning platforms are around, like Coursera, Udemy, and you can actually share your expertise. Now, of course, the schools like us continue to offer the structured learning approach, and UST and informatics and the other schools are actually adapting to the new norm. So with that, I'd like to encourage everyone not to lose hope, and continue to pray. I think UST really actually made me stronger, during this pandemic. The values that it has instilled in me, the Christian values of hope, faith, and love. And so I think everyone should not lose hope and just move forward. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Leo. Father J.
Okay, ako pa yung uli, no? I hope I'm last, not because I am a priest.
The last shall be first, Father.
I don't want to sound preachy, but I think whatever advancement we may have, kahit dagdagan na natin yung sinasabi ni Ma'am Yoli na baka umabot ito hanggang six industrial revolution. All these things will not mean anything if we will lose our humanity. Okay? All these things will not mean anything if in the end we will lose our humanity. Kaya nga, as technology rises up, and so the basic component of being human should also rise up. And what are those? When we can still relate with one another with respect, with empathy, sabihin mo na lahat ng virtues. Sorry, nasa UST ka talagang tuturo namin. Okay, andyan ang technology, pero ang technology magiging tool lang natin in order to enhance and improve our relationships with one another. And of course, when I say humanity, it won't be long that we will discuss about who created humanity. Okay? Nasa UST ka, Thomasians tayo Hindi mawawala sa equation ng ating reality ang presensya ng higher being, and that is God. Okay? Welcome to UST. Thanks for being Thomasian. Yun po yung last word ko. In the end, wala lahat ng technology kahit humanity. In the end, it's only God who has all the glory. Okay? So with that, salamat po.
Thank you, Father J. Of course, it's really unending grace, and we all, sino pang who else can we cling to except God, no? So in these times of pandemic and all the challenges, even in our political and Philippine social life, kapit lang, di ba, sabi nga nila. So thank you very much again to our four speakers who have given us so much this morning. And UST AAI and the partners would like to, CCPED would like to present you a certificate. It's virtual now, but you will eventually get it, I'm sure, a hard copy of it. So can we show the certificate? All right, so this is how it reads. The University of Santo Tomas Alumni Association Incorporated, the graduate school certificate of appreciation is given to the speaker, Leo ABERION, for having generously shared his expertise and experiences in Webinar 3, Higher Education in the Industry 4.0 Era of the National Multisectoral Summit for Educational Transformation, an Academe, Alumni, Industry, Government Collaboration, given this October 1st, 2021, at the Royal Pontifical and Catholic University of Santo Tomas, España, Manila, Philippines. And it's signed by Professor Jocelyn Agawili, Dean Henry Tenedero, and of course our indefatigable Professor Evelyn Songpo. And each of you will be receiving this certificate. So can we have a big round of applause for all of them? All right. Those who attended or participated, you will also get a certificate of appreciation, like Ma'am Yoli and Father Jay. But this, not appreciation, attendance, certificate of attendance. But as I said earlier, you will have to please submit your evaluation, first of all, and we will email to you. The link to the evaluation will be open until 9 a.m. tomorrow, as I understand it. And once you submit this, you will be assured of getting your certificate of attendance. Okay, so while we have a photo opportunity for all the members of the panel, please start doing your evaluation. So that's going to save time. And we'll just have a photo opportunity for all of those in the panel. Please switch on your cameras and put on your biggest smile. In spite of the pandemic, it's smiling that makes us human. And so please put on your best smiles. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much to our dear speakers.
Thank you.
Yoli, Leo, and Dr. Leo ABERION. And of course, Father Jay, thank you so much. Ang ganda ng ating as usual, maganda ang ating webinar. Maraming nagko-congratulate sa inyo. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Do we
ma'am.
end with the UST hymn?
Yes, of course. And before that, we still have one more webinar next, when is that? October 17th, I think.
15.
18, okay. So let's
15,
see what
15.
is going to be 15.
It's 15, October 15.
October 15.
Okay.
So here it is. We hope that you will join us again.
Kasi may announcement pa sila.
Okay, we hope that you will join us again for this next webinar. And I'd like to encourage all participants to fill out the evaluation forms that's now posted. If you have other questions, please email AAIG2021@gmail.com. If you missed part of this session or even the first and second webinars, you can view the recording at Facebook pages of UST AAI, USTGS, Graduate School CCPED, or CPRC PIES. All the Facebook pages that we have. And as I said, we now have a YouTube TAC channel, UST AAI, Tomasian Alumni Community YouTube channel. Please subscribe. And that's how you get connected to the university. All right. And so now let's sing the UST hymn and be reminded of unending grace.
With your holy
everyone, and see you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye po. Salamat po.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye po.
Congratulations to all.
All right. Thank you to our sponsors for keeping us on the air. Marami pong salamat.
Thanks po, Ma'am Nanette. Thanks, everyone.
Bye. See you next time. Thank you.
Ma'am Nanette, thank you.
Salamat din po. Pasensya na.
Thanks, Nanette. Thank you.
Salamat.
Thank you, JP. Thank you, Aaron.
Thanks to the tech team. Done.
And of course, thank you, CBRC, Tech, JR. Thank you very much.
Have a good lunch. Reward ourselves.
Recording stopped.
Do we have a meeting mamaya? Wala na.
Ang Jojo, nakamute ka po kung nagsasalita ka.
Ay, sorry. Thank you, everyone. Yun lang po.